told Leilani the other day, we went to pick up something and she told me, I want to go to 7-Eleven to buy a musubi. I said, Leilani, we didn't leave to go buy musubi. We just came for the ride. A couple minutes later, she told me, well, where's the ride at? I said, this is the ride. She goes, no, like you have to go on the hill and part of the ride. You're in for a ride. So, I'd like you to stand and turn to John chapter 9. I'd like to quickly move to the word of the Lord. I have something that has really spoken to me, and ministered to me. John chapter 9. And it might look familiar, but it's not the same message, unfortunately. But it is about a blind man a little bit. John chapter 9. Verse 1 to 3. John chapter 9. Verse 1 to 3. When you find it, say praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
The Bible says in John 9, verse 1 to 3, and as Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. I want to title this message. So last week we spoke about the journey, right?
Amen.
You remember the journey?
Journey, yes.
Well, I didn't say that on every journey there are storms. There are storms on the journey. There are moments of suffering on the journey.
Amen.
So I want to title this message, kind of a negative title, but not all suffering is because of sin. Okay, and I'll say that again. Not all suffering is because of sin. Not all storms is because you did something bad in your life. Not all sickness is because you wasn't on the ball. Not all struggles is because you didn't align up to what God wanted you to align up to.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord, for your word. Speak to us tonight, Lord, in Jesus' name, and everybody say amen. You may be seated tonight. So we spoke about the journey last week and used the story of the blind man from John chapter 9. I'm still chewing on that, Brother Carl.
Amen.
Apparently, Brother Carl is still chewing on it too. He might write a book about it. I know he got a blog about it already, but he might write a book about it. Maybe we might have a song about it one day, Tom. Who knows? But we spoke about the journey. And I didn't mention because time forbade me from doing so, but each journey also comes with storms.
Amen.
There are storms on the journey.
Right.
And oftentimes we have been programmed. And I'm trying to reprogram my own mind, Sister Loke. Oftentimes we have been programmed because of sermons, because of teachings. We have been programmed to equate storms and sufferings and afflictions to sin. You might be shaking your head now, but I'll make it clearer to you in a moment, because we do think like this. Not always, but we have been programmed to think. For example, we are taught, and I said it today, right, Brother Tom?
Yes.
Junior and Fa, if you do what you promise that you will do,
Yes.
the blessings of God will be upon your life. And oftentimes we are taught the blessings will come. If we're obedient, the blessings will come. And things will always work its way out. Well, there is much truth to that, but there are people who do good things and obey, that they still have to suffer and have struggles in their lives. And when we teach people that if you do good, blessings will come, we're also teaching them that on the contrary, sometimes if bad things are happening and suffering is taking place, we somehow begin to analyze those people or ourselves. I wonder why Brother Archie got down for 1 week. You know, maybe he should just this. Right, Brother Archie? I wonder, something happens to somebody, they go through a struggle, and we might not intend anything bad, but sometimes our humanistic ways, our human ways, we just think, well, man, I cannot believe they're going through this. I cannot believe they lost all of that. And we begin to, or maybe even for our own selves, God, how come I'm going through this? I don't understand why I gotta go through this. And we begin to analyze ourselves. We begin to reflect. What am I doing wrong? Where have I come short? Okay, I know I'm not perfect, and and I know I need to work on my prayer life, and I need to work on my attitude, but still, God, show me. What am I doing so bad or so wrong? And we begin to reflect and analyze it, because many times we think if something bad is happening, that something must have been done to cause this badness to happen. This badness, this suffering, this wrong turn, this cloud over my life we think it's a result of, the result of something bad happening. Though there may be some partial truths to these statements I made. I want you to know tonight that is not always the case. I want you to know tonight that is not always the case. I'm going to speak to a number of you tonight. I'm going to help a number of you tonight. Because I'm going to help me tonight. When I'm overly critical of myself, when I think things should have happened this way or that way, and I take the blame, Sister Loki, upon myself, that if I prayed more, if I just obeyed God and did this for the cause, then maybe this wouldn't have happened. And I seem to equate everything bad to something that I should have done, or I didn't do, or I could have done. But that's not always the case. For a brief moment tonight, I want us to reflect back on the blind man. And as Jesus passed, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And the disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? We already know the place in the blame. Who is the reason for this man's blindness? Why is this man struggling? Why is this man in this predicament? Why is this happening to him? He didn't deserve it. Was it he brought it upon himself, or did his parents bring it upon him? Amen. And Jesus says, immediately Jesus answers, neither has this man sinned, nor his parents. This blindness, this suffering, this struggle, this storm in his life, this thorn in his flesh, this challenge was not brought about by somebody's sin. This is not the repercussions of him reaping what somebody else sowed. Yes, he's struggling. Yes, there's a challenge in his life. Yes, it's a very dark time in his life. Yes, there's a storm hovering over his head. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, he's physically maimed. But it ain't because of sin. It ain't because of a wrong choice he made. It ain't because of something he should have done and didn't do, but could have done but didn't do. It ain't because his mom and dad didn't do something. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
I'm going to help some of you who blaming yourself for things that happen. And it may have nothing to do with you. It's automatically assumed. And you know who assumes? The disciples. Not the world, the disciples. Let's call them the Christians. It's automatically assumed, Brother Tom, by the Christians, that this man's blindness, this man's storm, this man's struggle, this man's suffering was attributed to his sin, whether on the part of himself or his parents. But in essence, what they were saying was, it was like a form of punishment for him. You think like that all the time. Maybe not all the time, but you think like that. See, they shouldn't have asked you. They shouldn't have left the Lord. They should have been faithful. See what's happening there? That's just our normal response. We like to sing the thing. We like, because we've been programmed like that with the God. We've been programmed, right, growing up. If you're throwing them out, that means you're talking about somebody. Right? We're all adults. We've been programmed. If you get style-eyed, you've been looking at bad naked pictures. We've been programmed to think like that. If you're limping, that means you're going someplace you shouldn't have gone. And then when we look at these things on the outside, well, maybe you haven't, but that's how a lot of Hawaiians think. When you look at things on the outside, we seem to always think that this is because of something else you did. And we begin to, it's like the Indonesian airline that goes down. You seem to have to go through the wreckage, looking for the evidence. And we go through everybody's junk and looking for the evidence of the mistake they made and why they are in this position. I know why, because you know what Tom did? Look. We begin to do our investigations. That's what they were doing.
Amen.
Be careful if you prejudge people.
Amen.
And be careful if you assume that every man's suffering and every man's struggle is because of sin. Some maybe, because we do reap what we sow, but not every time. And some of your struggles, maybe you brought it upon yourself. And some may not be because you brought it upon yourself.
Amen.
Not every storm, not every struggle, not every hardship is connected to something that you did wrong. I want to help somebody here tonight. If you've been struggling with a storm, continuing to pound yourself over the head because of this and because of that. Why couldn't I just not have the taste of nicotine in my mouth growing up? Why did I have to be at that place at the wrong time? Why did this and why did that? Why am the shy person? Or why am the shy type? Or why am not the shy type? Or blame all kind of stuff. Why can't I just have a little bit more faith? Why can't I have more control over this or control over that? Sometimes we pound ourselves over the head because of this and because of that. But I'm telling you tonight, I'm going to tell you again, and I'm going to take you home. Not every struggle, not every storm on the journey is a result of somebody's sin.
Amen.
That's only John 9, 1 and 2. That's what it said, right, Sister Buena? His blindness wasn't because of somebody's sin. Sometimes we blame ourselves for the course of certain events. Sometimes we program ourselves to believe, Brother Tom, that if I just did this, if I just did that, if I prayed for my mom and dad more, Sister Shauna, right? If I prayed for my siblings more, right, Brother Tom? If I prayed for my niece and nephew and my own family more, they would be in church today. And I like to take the blame and the responsibility upon myself. But I fail to realize sometimes that they're free will agents too.
Amen.
They make their own choices.
Amen.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
If I were a better parent, then maybe my children would be in church today. If I were a better parent, then I would, Pastor, you don't even know what we've been dealing with one of my kids. I don't even want to alarm you, but if I were just a better parent. if. And sometimes we pray to Sequela and we say, God, if I did something wrong, please show me. There are many times you come to him and say, God, show me what I'm doing wrong. Show me my deficiency. Show me my shortcoming. Please, God, show me what I did wrong. Or we say, God, if you're trying to tell me something, please help me to know what you're trying to tell me. Don't we tell him that?
Amen.
God, if you're trying to speak to me, let me hear what you're trying to say to me. Because this battle is not a fun battle. This struggle is not a fun struggle. This blindness is not a fun blindness, and I've had it for a long time. And if you're trying to make a point, God, let me learn the lesson well and go on. But there's not always an answer. There's not always a point he's trying to make to you. It's not always the case that he's trying to tell you something. In the midst of the blind man's, we're going to call it self-incrimination. In the midst of the blind man already being blind, in the midst of the blind man already wondering, how come he's blind? In the midst of the blind man already wondering, how come I was born this way? How come I have to deal with this? How come? How come I couldn't just be born to another family? Or how come this? But in the midst of his self-incrimination, because, hey, we rough on ourselves, right? Anybody rough on yourself? We are rough on ourselves. The how comes. I didn't know, Brother Tom, that a blind man's world could even get darker. But his world got darker, Brother Carl.
Amen.
You know why? Because his ears work really good. And his ears work pretty good. And when Jesus was coming by, he heard Jesus' disciples, the ones who he was planning on being the group that was going to help him out of this dilemma, possibly. He heard them open their mouth, and he heard the disciples ask. And notice the Bible says, and the disciples asked him, saying, they didn't only think it, they said it. Master, who did sin? This man or his parents, and he was born blind? Now blind man heard that. I said blind man heard that.
Amen.
It wasn't enough that he was already blind and couldn't see. But now he's hearing the church. Now he's hearing the disciples, Sister Buena, putting salt in his wound. And basically what they were saying, Brother Tom, was, what they were really saying was, you might say, why, what did they say? What they were saying was, boy is blind and somebody had sinned. Let's look for the evidence of what he did for all of this. This is happening because he did something. And I will find out what he did that made God so mad that made him blind. Can you imagine that effect on him? Thinking if you're hurting and you're struggling, and I don't think they did it purposely, but you're hurting and you're struggling, and the place where you might be going for comfort and for sight and to get out of darkness, and the place you might be going so that you can see it for a miracle, and you go and you hear the words that is saying that, no, Shauna did that because she did something. She had to have done something. She had to have done something. I came to church because I wanted to be strengthened, but the sister greeted and said, praise the Lord, sister. You miss you see? She didn't have been God, so that's what happened. You know, this is not looking you got here. That's what's happening to the blind man, Brother Tom. You can see where I'm going. His world got even darker. The disciples who was walking literally with the light of the world. Think about it. The first thing they do, the one who is walking in the light of the world, the first thing they do is darken a blind man's world. Because their question, the way it was written and said, suggests to him that his suffering was linked to sin. It does. His question suggests that suffering was linked to sin. Oh, is he blind because here? Or his parents? They're linking the struggle to sin. If we are not careful, we have that ability to inflict the same additional pain on people and asking the wrong questions. We're all guilty. I said we're all guilty.
Amen.
Sometimes we do it purposely and sometimes we don't do it purposely, right, Brother Tom? But we all do. Sometimes we use it to get control of our kids. See what happens?
Yeah.
We all guilty.
Amen.
But even a blind man can sense how other people see him. Even a hurting person can sense how other people feel about him. Even somebody in total darkness can sense how somebody looks crazy. Because they didn't see him as a victim of a tragedy, but they see him as a sinner suffering from the hand of the wrath of God. That's how they see him. He wasn't just somebody hurting, but they see him as somebody suffering from the wrath of God. And the disciples didn't try to counsel him, they didn't try to console him. That's what they did. They just sifted right through the record. Him or his parents. That's what they did. They just looked for all evidence. Careful. Don't ever survey people's lives for all the signs of how come they are where they are. Be very careful. Your assumptions can be making hurting people hurt even more. And your assumptions can give them the impression, because he never seen Jesus. But what he heard from the disciples was before he heard the words of Jesus. His assumptions, the disciples' assumptions could have perfectly pushed him away from Jesus. Because he could have assumed, well, if that's the guy they're walking with, that's all they're doing is looking through the record and trying to point out stuff. But you know why he still gave heed to Jesus? Because right after the comment, Jesus jumped in real quick. Yeah. To make it clear. There is a danger if we begin to see ourselves how other people see us. There is a danger if the blind man begins to see himself as the way disciples see him. There is a danger if he starts to believe, Brother Todd, that maybe I'm like this because I am no good. I'm like this because I did something bad. I'm like this because God doesn't love me. God hates me. God is putting judgment on me. That's why it's dangerous if you begin to see yourself how other people begin to see you. Imagine if the blind man did believe that he was in a storm and he was blind because of what somebody put on him. We have to focus on Jesus so we can see ourselves how God sees us. We've got to focus on him. It doesn't matter how dirty you look, how dirty you've been, how unclean you've been, what you've been through, what it seems like. We've got to focus on him so we can see ourselves how he sees us.
Amen.
You see, they didn't just ask the question. They assumed, they suggested, they accused him. Well, you late to church every Tuesday. People accused and they sued. But the accusation, strangely enough, a lot of you find it 3 verses there. The accusation, strangely enough, caused Jesus to respond immediately. Immediately. Because Brother Archie. Jesus must have heard the tone of their voices. Jesus must have heard that tone in their accusations. He was concerned. He probably was concerned, how the disciples seen the blind man, that perspective. But he might have also been concerned how the blind man was going to see him. Because these were, after all, his followers. And Jesus' answer in this particular situation is just like how he answers it so many other times, Sister Angel, in the New Testament. It's not only surprising, but it's liberating. It gives them freedom. It releases them from something. His answers blow my mind every time I hear the things, how he responds to people. Jesus says, neither has this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. Amen. His response to the blind man was the first step in that blind man's healing. It was the first step in that blind man's healing, Brother Tom. Amen. He knew that if he was going to heal the blind man, the blind man must see how God sees him. The blind man must see that God had something for him, and that he could have faith in God and believe in God, but he had to see God properly. Jesus is showing him that this is a kind God, not a cruel God. This is a God who is long-suffering, not a God who is punishing. Jesus was showing them, Brother Tom, it ain't because nobody sinned. He's not suffering because I'm trying to cast judgment on people. Jesus was showing that he's a God of compassion, not vengeance, or being vengeance. What is the right word? Vengeful. That one right there, vengeful. He was showing him that God was merciful. Jesus was trying to show him, Brother Carl, could the blind man accept the simple fact that his suffering was not a sign of God punishing him? Could the blind man accept the simple fact that my storm is not a sign of my God punishing me? Amen. Could the blind man accept the fact that my struggle, my shortcoming, is not God trying to punish me for something? And Jesus said, not your fault, not your parents' fault. You know what he said when he said that? This is profound too. He said, not your parents' fault and not your fault. In essence, he's saying, it wasn't the circumstances in your past, and it's not the circumstances in your present either, that is causing you to be going through this storm. What he was saying, Sister Cohena, that your past or your present is not enough to bind you in this situation. Your past or your present is not enough to put you in this situation. Hey, some situations you're in, your past or your present is not strong enough to bind you and put you in that situation. Amen. Some situations you're going through have nothing to do with your mom and your dad and your past and how you was raised and where you was raised and when you was raised or the things you did before you came to the Lord. Some situations have nothing to do with that. I'm sure he was no angel. Nothing, Jesus was hammering down the point. Nothing in his past had put him in that situation. Not his genealogy, not his parents, not his upbringing, not their actions. Hear me tonight. Nothing in his past was putting him in that situation. Amen. There are some situations that we are confronted with that it has nothing to do with where you was raised, who raised you, how you was raised, what your parents did, if you had parents, if you never had parents, has nothing to do with that. It might be unfortunate, but some of our storms and struggles has nothing to do with the man who did this 40 years ago and the mom who went drinking and left me home alone 30 years ago and the kids who beat me up at school school and the kids who teased me at school and did all this kind of stuff. Some of our situations that had nothing to do with it.
Amen.
Bad things can happen
Amen.
in life, which you are not to blame and God is not to blame. I said, bad things can happen in life, but we are not to blame and God is not to blame. And that has to sink in my head. Sometimes I want to blame somebody, Sister Kathy, for how come this and how come that. Maybe if my mother wasn't a little more passive, then I wouldn't have got that trait from her. Maybe if my dad went to church, then I wouldn't have had to deal with all this stuff. Well, there's some things that we're not to blame and God not to blame. But once that sinks into your head, that something's in your life, you're not to blame, God not to blame. Once it sinks in your head, then God can revive you and restore you to where He wants to restore you to. Once that sinks in the blind man's mind, Sister Glenna, once that sinks in the spirit that He's not to blame and God not to blame, then God begins to do the miraculous and revive him and do what only God can do in his life. We have to understand that God is not the reason that all of the suffering we're going through, Brother Paro.
Amen.
We have to move past our pain and to realize that it's not God that is punishing us. Some of us feel like God is punishing us. Some of us feel like I deserve this because it's what I did. God is not punishing us. We have to move beyond that so that we can have God to heal us. Here's a scripture that we read often, but I want to interject it here. Romans says, what shall we then say to these things? If God be for us, listen, who can be against us? He that spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with also freely give us all things? Who shall lay anything to the charge of God's elect? It is God that justifies. Listen, who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation, distress, persecution, famine, nakedness, peril, sword? Who shall separate us from the love of God? As it is written, for thy sake we are killed all the day long, we are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors to him that loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. You know what that tells me tonight?
Amen.
That tells me that we must know, Brother Carl, that God will never separate himself from us. We must get fixated in our mind and in our psyche that God will never, 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 never separate himself from us. No matter what my parents' name was, no matter what I went through, no matter what my struggle is, no matter what my suffering is, no matter what, if I understand or don't understand, he will never separate himself from us. You know what? The bigger thing we gotta do when we get in struggles and when we get in storms, we gotta realize that God will never separate himself from us, Brother Tom. But the bigger battle that we gotta fight is we must resist the temptation to separate ourselves from him. Because he ain't gonna separate himself from us. But we gotta resist the temptation that if it's not going my way, I'm not going to church, I'm not praying. I'm just gonna sit in my corner all day and I'm mad at you, God. We gotta resist the temptation to separate ourselves from him. Because he ain't gonna separate from us. But we have the free will at the top to separate ourselves from him. And when I look at the blind man, Jesus still came to help him. But he had to let him realize that, hey, I love you and I'm not punishing you. And what you're going through is not because I'm casting judgment on you, but I'm here to help you. I'm here to restore sight to you. I'm here to help you. Whatever you do, whatever the disciples say, whatever other people say, don't push yourself away from me. Because I'm sending you on a journey, buddy. And this journey is going to have storms and struggles, buddy. But there is a miracle waiting at the end in the pool of Siloam that I'm going to restore you. I'm going to revive you. I'm last night and last week, and you still in your carnality came here and said, praise the Lord. And you might be preaching today and been carnal last night. You might be in a worship leader and been carnal last night. You might be the keyboard player and been carnal last night. No matter what, God will never, 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 never separate himself from us. And we must make our mind up that I will resist every temptation that causes me to want to separate myself from God.
Amen.
Now my conclusion tonight is about Thomas. The story of Thomas that we all call Doubting Thomas. Well, maybe we should reshift that a little bit.
All right.
Okay? And yeah, he doubted, but which one of you never doubted? Yeah, he lacked faith, but which one of you never lacked faith? Remember the story of Thomas? He put his hands in Jesus' hand. He put his hand in his side. He wanted to see the hand. And it must be right here, right? When he said, or put your hand. And when he put his hands in, he believed. Remember that? I'll read it for you just a minute. I remember that. We read the story of Thomas in John chapter 20. Basically what happens is Jesus rises from the dead. And the first time he appears unto the disciples.
Yes.
And when we read the story, when he appears unto the disciples in John 20, Thomas was not with them. And when Thomas heard the news that Jesus was resurrected, because he wasn't with them.
Right.
When he heard the news that Jesus was resurrected, he said, that's what he said, except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, he says, I will not believe. Just want to prove. And then when Jesus appears next, Thomas is there the next time. This time Thomas is there, Brother Archie. And Jesus says to him, reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands. And reach hither thy, he said, reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands. He says, reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. Right?
Yeah.
But of the many things that people want to focus on, they want to focus on the verse after that. It says, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed. Everybody wants to focus on that particular verse. Because you see me, believe. Those who didn't see me, they're broken. They did not see me. And we like to tag him as the doubting Thomas who had no faith. And when we look at this entire conversation between Jesus and Thomas, we only come up with the conclusion that he was a doubter. And he had to have proof for him to believe. But we can believe without seeing. We give him a negative stigma. Well, let me mess up your theology a little bit. I find something interesting with Thomas. A few things that I think is worth my mentioning tonight as my conclusion.
Amen.
The simple fact, when I look at Thomas, it proves two profound points to me, Brother Wolfgang. Number one, Jesus proves through the exchange with Thomas. I can't believe that. He goes to the extent, because he knows Thomas doesn't believe. He knows Thomas doesn't, not really sure if that's Jesus' presence right there with the disciples. He goes to the extent, I never heard him do this to anybody else. If I sit here, put your finger in my hand, put your hand in my side, so you can feel it. So you can Thomas, that this is my presence that is standing before me right now. This situation helps me to realize this as well. That God is willing to go to any length for us to feel Him.
Yes.
That God is willing to go to such an extreme for us just to realize His presence and for us to know with certainty that even though He was crucified, even though Thomas felt like He left us, but God will go to any length for us to feel and be certain that His presence is with us, for us to be certain that He would never leave us nor forsake us. You know what Thomas is dealing with? Thomas was wondering if God was even on his side anymore. If the situation, the circumstances, looks like God forgot about me, looks like He left and here I am and all the things that I had hoped for is shot down now. But Jesus went through such length to make sure that one, Thomas could feel Him. Two, that Thomas could feel the presence of Jesus, the presence of God, and to know with confidence and certainty that He would never leave him nor forsake him, that He is true to His word. You can remember doubting Thomas if you want, but now when I'm thinking about Thomas, Sister Angel, I'm thinking the lengths that God will go through, no matter how dark my world is, no matter how I'm struggling, and no matter how my faith has plummeted down, and all my hopes have crashed, and my dreams have crashed, and I just don't know, where are you? Where are you? You got put it in your tomb, and nobody sees me anymore. Where are you, God? I just cannot feel you anymore. But that's that God would go through. He knew exactly what Thomas needed to do to know with certainty that God was still with him. He knows, Sister Angel, exactly what you need for you to know with certainty that no matter how dark it is, no matter how not confident you might be, no matter how much you might struggle, that He knows that He will go through the length just so you know that you can feel Him and know that His presence is with you. He will wait and He will meet you before the Psalms even start at 3 o'clock on Sunday. And He will make His way right down here. And He will see me sitting right here. And He will not have to wait till the worship service starts, but He will make His way and let you know that I know where you are. I've not left you. I've not forsaken you. He knows, Sister Angel, when it's 2:30 in the morning and you got all the pressures in your mind and you just are laying by yourself in the bed and looking at the ceiling, and then His presence starts to sweep in the room because He knows He will go to the length so you can feel Him, so you can know that He is with me, that neither height nor depth, nothing shall separate me from the love of God, that you know that He will never leave me. When the pastor, you might say, Lord, put it on the pastor's heart to call me right now, and it's 3 in the morning, and pastor doesn't call you. And when you say, Lord, give me a sign, let me look at my Facebook, and maybe pastor messaged me and gave me an encouraging scripture, and you look at nothing is there. But God knows that He don't need pastor to encourage you. He don't need pastor to let you know that He's with you. He knows. And when you look at Thomas, Brother Carl, the length that Jesus went through just so that Thomas would feel Him.
Yes.
I never heard any place where Jesus said, put your hand inside of me.
Right.
I never heard Him say, here, come here, this is me. Then He went through. Call Him doubting Thomas if you want, but I tell you what is amplified in my mind and what is magnified in my mind, not Thomas' disbelief, but what's amplified in the simple fact, Brother Archie, that God knows how to reach me. He knows when I'm at my lowest. He knows when I'm faking at my lowest. He knows when I just don't know what's going on. He knows how to reach me, and He knows the length to go so that I know with certainty
Amen.
that He never left me.
Amen.
He will never leave us nor forsake us.
Amen.
And you know what else was interesting about Thomas?
Yeah.
That he put his hand in his side. But you know why that's interesting? It's not that Thomas might have thought, oh, that's kind of creepy. Okay, let me just see if you're really a spirit or what is happening. That's interesting, but what's more interesting is the fact that Jesus wasn't afraid. to let Thomas put his hand in his side. I just have a hard time believing, of course maybe Father is different, but I have a hard time believing when Jesus said, Thomas, come on, put your hand on my side. So you can feel that I know. I have a hard time believing that Thomas did this. Wait, Jesus. Good. Amen. Well, because I don't like contaminate him, because my hands are dirty all day and pretty dusty out there, and some of you guys' feet is pretty gross looking, and I mean, who does that operation without them cleaning their hands? And they clean their hands with the time, and they put gloves on, and they put a mask on, but I don't know, they might have left it out of the scripture, but I have a hard time thinking that God said, hold on, Jesus, let me go home at this antiseptics and bacteria things, and let me wash my hands first, because I know if you get infected and die again. Good, but, it's good, isn't it? Good. But it's not Thomas that blew my mind, it's the fact that Jesus wasn't worried about that. Jesus was not worried about getting infected. Hey, I went to the dentist, they yanked my tooth the other week. I put something that I'm worried about getting infected. I can't eat nothing, I eat tofu for 2 days. Then by the third day I said, forget about this, just eat on one side. But I'm worried about my mouth getting infected. Then now they get stuck, we gotta go to Long, buy stuff, put on her, put Band-Aid, make sure she has antibiotics, worried about getting infected. But Jesus was not worried about getting infected. Because Thomas's hand couldn't corrupt him. Thomas could not contaminate him. The fact that Thomas could put his unwashed hand into the side of Jesus proves even more so that he's incorruptible. Amen. Proves even more so that he's the one true incorruptible God. You might say, no, you went on a limb with this one. I sure am, but it's a good limb. It's good enough. Nothing of the dust and the dirt and the grime of this world can hold Jesus out. Nothing in your secret black book can hold Jesus down. Nothing that you hide in none of your filth can corrupt you. And even beyond that, with all of the filthiness of your hands, he still wants you to feel it. Oh, I'm not good enough. The filth of mankind will be thrust into his side, but nothing will ever bring him down. I'm so dirty. I'm so filthy. You don't even know, Pastor. I feel like a hypocrite. I don't want to lift my hands up because I don't deserve to. Of course you don't deserve to. Even if you have nothing, you don't deserve to. And so you got to keep praising him no matter what. Because your filth cannot contaminate him. When you slept with somebody you shouldn't have slept with last night and came to church and act like you was all hunky-dory, your filth cannot contaminate him. I get so crazy. I get so crazy because I should be praising him whether I'm doing good or not doing good. Then everything that happens, I praise him. But I realized as a point that there was no filth that could contaminate him when and he allowed it to come into him. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of in the Bible as I close. In the Bible, there's a scripture in Leviticus when they tell them in the worship, they tell them, bring the palm branches. Yeah. He said, bring the palm branches and bring the willow branches too. Well, I mean, you only got 2 hands, right? There's no octopus people back there. You have 2 hands. So I'm picturing you got palm in one hand, willow in the other hand. You're going to worship, you're going to the temple, you got the palm branch in one hand and the willow in the other hand. Yes. The palm is a type of joy. The willow is a type of sorrow. we're the hardest on ourselves. And sometimes some of you have a hard time calling into church when you come because of habit, and that's what will happen. And you know you've been an idiot all week. You know your mouth has been on the wrong track all week. You know your eyes have been looking at the wrong thing all week. You know, you just know. You know. And you know what? Even with a filthy hand, he still says, you cannot contaminate me. Your filth is not going to mess me up. I'm still God. If that's what it takes, he's an angel for you to feel me and be in my presence. Come, Thomas. Put your hand on my side. Come. We sang that song, he is a good God, isn't he? I said, he is a good God.
Amen.
He is a good God, Brother Carl.
Amen.
When you come into his presence, you can bring your joy and your sorrow.
Amen.
As we close tonight, and I invite you to stand, not everything that you have gone through is your fault. And not everything that you're going through is somebody else's fault.
No.
Not everything, Sister Logan, that you have to deal with is because of your sins. All because of your parents' sins. Some things on the journey is not going to storm. And if you can recognize, you can just recognize that God is not out to punish you. See, look at, good for you. You're having the heartache, oh, they're going to run you to the wall and go. No. Okay, so. But God is not out to say, I'm going to punish you. But if we could recognize that he's not out to punish us, Brother Tom, if we could recognize that as well, then we set ourselves up to be healed, to be restored, because we set ourselves up to allow God to do what God wants to do. Something just happened because it happens. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. Stop blaming yourself for everything. If you're looking for the answers for stuff that you're struggling with, you cannot figure out how come. What am I doing wrong? You might not do nothing wrong. It could very well be that God wants you to recognize that it's not you. It's not nobody else's fault. You're right. Let's lift the hands together. I want us to just worship Him. Wave the palm and wave the middle at the same time. Lift up your joy and lift up your sorrow in the same breath. Here I am, Lord. Things might have not worked out. Not your fault. It may very well not be your fault. I'm not trying to take the blame off of you, but I'm trying to say not everything is because of something you did. Not everything. Reach out to Him. Stop blaming your past. Stop blaming your current situation. If the journey is hard, just recognize that God is in control. Thomas said, my Lord and God, the length that He will go for you to feel Him. I worship you, Lord. I worship you in my shortcoming. I worship you in my shortcoming. His presence is here. His presence is here. If you just reach out to Him, reach your hand into His side. His presence is here. His presence is here. His presence is here. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. No matter what it's like, I will never leave you nor forsake you. In the name of Jesus, I pray for those in this house, Lord, who've been bound by circumstances, who've been bound by situations, who have been bound by occurrences and storms in their lives, by the power and authority in the name of Jesus. Set them free and liberate them in the name of Jesus. That it is not maybe possibly of no fault of their own, but liberate them in the name of Jesus, 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 in the name of Jesus. Not being held captive to the thing that has bound you. I need to be strong. Let God move me. I need to be strong. Let God love me. He's not out there to punish you. It's so worth. He's not out there to make things rough for you. He loves you. I need to be still. Reach out to him. Reach out to him. I need you to dance. Let God take over. I need you to dance. Let God take over. Take this load over my shoulders. Some things are not because of your past. Some things are not because of your present. God take over. Love it, love it, love it. When there's trouble around me and my soul cries out for rest, when I feel the pain, even though it's time to just be still. Yes, Lord. We sent you on a journey. He can restore you and revive you. He can restore you and revive you. Don't listen to what other people say. Don't be like the blind man and listen to what the disciples say. Listen to what the master said. See how he views you. As we prepare to dismiss you tonight, don't feel the need to look through the wreckage of somebody else's circumstances or even your own circumstances. I said, don't feel the need to look through the wreckage and for the evidence to support it. And when I say somebody else's, but sometimes we look through our own record. And that's the worst one, is to look through your own record and feel like you're just not good enough. You just deserve that. He was trying to get the blind man not to think that he wasn't good enough to get saved. But he was. But the blind man had to see himself how Jesus seen him. We talk a lot about Jesus walking on the water, focusing on Jesus, but the need to focus on him is so that we can see ourselves how he sees us. I told Leilani the other day, she was bawling and crying and hysterical. I said, what's wrong? She said, you get out here teasing me. She couldn't really understand the extent of my conversation, but I'm just thinking, girl, you don't have to listen to everything everybody says. But some reason, they already got it in them at 5, 6 years old, that what other people say affects them. Don't let the incriminating and words and accusations come from the disciples. Don't let it come from the church. We're not perfect. Just sometimes you gotta think before you think. Don't look through the record of people's lives. You know, some people got enough mess going on in their lives. They don't need you sorting through the record looking for the reason why they're there. It's the truth, right? Some people got so much mess in their lives. That's why they're in the house of God.
Amen.
And what they need is people to console them, strengthen them. You know, if she was doing this or he was doing that, then I don't need all of that stuff. I know that's common sense, but sometimes we need to be reminded. It is common sense, but for the person in the record, it hurts.
Amen.
It hurts when the one that's supposed to be there to console you is the one abusing you without them even knowing. You know, church, if you never missed Tuesday night 3 weeks ago, then go to church already. As somebody once said, it's hard enough down. But it's even harder to be down if you keep going down.
Amen.
So I guess a blind man's road can become hard to come. You might think at the bottom it can get worse. And I know we're guilty. I'm guilty. And I'm not saying it nonchalantly, but as we grow, we get to learn how to do things better. Amen.
Amen.
Be blessed abundantly. Not every sin is somebody's fault. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Not every storm and every struggle is somebody because of somebody's sin. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Greet one another, be friendly, buy spaghetti. Have